Hi, I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Theory Tuition series where I'll lead you step by step through each of the ABRSM Theory grades. There are lots of resources available to help you on my website. If you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find some free PDF information sheets. You can download those in US letter or A4 and they accompany each step of this series. There's also a page there with links to all of my YouTube video tutorials. And you can also access information about the books that I have available. I've written How to Take Your ABRSM Music Theory Exam. It's an exam technique guide and it's full of tips and techniques on how to best prepare for your exam and actually how to best make use of the time when you're in the exam room working through your exam paper. So if you visit sharonbill.com, you'll find it's all there for you. If you can give me a like, that'd be fab, and please subscribe to my channel to keep updated. There's lots more in store. And so we're going to continue with our revision, working through the general exercises. We're on exercise 3 now. So if you turn with me at the back of your book to page 55. And I always recommend that you use these little exercises at the end of the grade book to recap your knowledge in previous grades, which might be a little bit rusty. This is an accumulation of all of the grades 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And so there might be some topics that we haven't touched on for quite some time. And so I'm going to just tell you where to look to find the answers, to brush up on something that you might have forgotten about. All of the questions refer back to this little piece of music here. Mozart's Ave Verum, absolutely beautiful piece of music. I've sung this many times, so I might just get carried away with a bit of a reverie here whilst we're working. So let's have a look at the questions and I'll just refer back where you can find those answers. So it asks us to explain the meaning of SATB. That's going to be grade 5, section E. It asks us to circle any notes that are not part of the key of D major. So that first is discussed in grade 1L, but we've referred to it many times since then in the following grades. We have to do a bit of detective work here and we have to find the interval and then we have to describe it. We have to find the interval between the highest note and the lowest note in the melody. We need to also explain the largest harmonic interval between the two upper voices and also between the two lower voices. So we've got quite a lot of intervals to find and describe. We first come across this in grade 4, section H for all of those 3 questions, and also we touch on an extra detail of that in grade 5, section G. So moving on, we're asked to name the chords above the bass notes, which are marked with Roman numerals 1, 2 and 3, small italic numbers. And we're first shown how to name those chords in all its detail in grade 5, section H. We're asked which note is sung in unison by 2 of the voices, and we first come across that in grade 5E again. That'll help us to describe that. Name 2 standard orchestral instruments that could play the bass part of this passage, so we need to know bass orchestral instruments, and so we sort of discuss that mostly at the end of this grade 5 in section M, and you'll find that in the PDF document that I've given you there as well. And then we're asked to write out bars 5 and 6 in open score, and we're shown how to do that in grade 5 section E. That's a really nice topic. Now a lot of this is based upon choral works. There's a big clue, just a heads up, and that does not appear in the grade 5 2018 onwards newly revised exam papers. However, I still recommend that you work through this because it's good just in terms of general knowledge, because we are still required to understand about the voices and that sort of thing. So although we won't be specifically asked this particular question at the end, I think it's worthwhile just for general knowledge and revision in general terms. So there's enough there to help you to go back and complete those questions and look up anything that you might have forgotten. I do suggest that you do that first. It doesn't matter if you get something wrong, just have a go. You're only ever working in pencil, so you can always just rub out, use your eraser and have another go. It's better to learn by your mistakes. So I'm hoping that you've had a go at that, and so I'm going to work through these questions with you and we'll discuss the answers as we go along. So the meaning of SATB, which I gave dreadfully desperate hints for, telling you it was choral music, means that we're on soprano, alto, tenor and bass. Now the key of the motet is D major, and it asks us to circle any notes in the passage that are not in this key. And now we know that D major has got a key signature of F sharps and C sharps. However, they give us the clue some of the accidentals are not strictly necessary, so don't just sort of unthinkingly go through and just circle any old accidental presuming that it means it's not in this key, because sometimes the accidentals or the sharps may not be strictly necessary, and so don't just circle anything. And so let's glance through. We'll work with the soprano first of all. So D sharp is not part of D major, of course, and so that needs to be circled. However, C sharp is part of D major, and it's just telling us that we're back to this C sharp here. It's not strictly necessary, so that's just reiterating. It's a bit redundant, so we don't want that. D natural, of course it's already D natural, it's just telling us that it's no longer D sharp. The bar liners automatically cancel that, and that's just a redundant reminder really. It's just a reiteration of what's already happened, so we can't circle that because D natural is definitely part of D major. So let's look in the other voice parts. So C natural is not part of D major, so we can circle that because D major should have C sharps. And we've got another C natural here in the tenor part, so we need to circle that. B natural, that's a redundant natural sign. There is no B flat to cancel in the tenor part, but it's just making it clear that the B flat from the bass part here has not continued into the next bar and into the next voice part. So that's not really doing anything new. It's not in conflict with the key signature, so we'll ignore that. C sharp is not in conflict with the key signature. C sharp is part of D major, and it's just telling us that this natural sign is no longer in play. And so that's the tenor line complete. And so let's see what's going on in the bass line. So B flat is not part of D major. Neither is G sharp. G natural is, that's just reminding us that the G sharp is cancelled. And so G natural is part of D major, so we need to leave that alone. And so that's now complete. And so I think that's everything. So there we go, we've completed that. Now for the next question we need to look at some intervals, but we've got to find those intervals first of all. It's asking us what's the interval between the highest and the lowest note in the melody. So we've got to find those first. So let's find the highest note. So the highest note is here, this E. And the lowest note, now be careful that you only choose the lowest note in the top line of the music. We can only choose from the soprano part. So these inside notes with the stems going down aren't applicable. However, this D at the end, we've got a D for the alto and a D for the soprano, and that's the lowest soprano note. So we've got from this D to this top E. So we've got an interval that exceeds an octave. So I'm going to just jump the octave and show that this is here. So we've got a compound interval, and here's the octave jump. So we've got on a 1, 2, we've got a compound second of some sort. Now, if our lowest note is D, if we're thinking in D major has E naturals, which is the case here, and so we know it's a major interval, it's part of the major scale, and so we could describe that as a compound major second. Alternatively, you can just count up the intervals and you can call it a major ninth. There we go. So what is the largest harmonic interval between the two upper voices? So we're looking for the largest interval between the soprano and the alto, the two upper voices. And so I'm just looking for the largest distance between the soprano and the alto. So this looks like a likely candidate. So does this. All of these intervals are getting smaller. And actually here we've got an E to an E. And here we've got a D to a D. So we've got the same distance in both cases. The interval is the same and it's an octave. And nothing's been changed chromatically. So we've just got the perfect octave. There we go. And now in the lower voices, we're looking for the smallest harmonic interval. And so let's look and see what the smallest is. So we're looking for the closest together. So we've got a fair few thirds going on here. Gets bigger there. However, here we're right next door. Yep, so this is it here. And so we have our lowest note is a G, and next door to that we have an A. If G is our key note in terms of describing the interval, G major would have an A natural in it, which is what we have here. So we've got a second, and it's a major, it's part of the major scale, so it's a major second. There we go. Now we're asked to name the chords above these bass notes here. We're asked to name these 3 chords. So we're told that the key is D major, and so let's just map out our chords so we can think about those. So we've got chords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're in D major, so that's 1, D, E, F, G, A. Now we need to work out the triads, 1st, 3rd, 5th. You may find it helpful to just use your piano keyboard sketch to help you find the 1st, 3rd, 5th. And then we need to show root position and the 2 inversions. And we're ready to go, that's all the thinking. So let's see what notes we've got here. So we've got an F, a D and a D, so it's chord 1. Oh, and actually here we are, this A is a long note, so that's still in place. So we've got an F, an A D and a D, and so that's chord 1. But then we need to show which part of the chord is in the bass, and the F is in the bass. So we can see that it's a 1B. Let's see what we've got in chord 2. We've got a B, G, D, G. And so we can see we've got a chord 4, which is made up of G, B, D. But because the B is in the bass, we know it's a chord 4B. And then the last chord, A, D, F. And so we cut back to chord 1, which has got DFA in it, but because the A is in the bass, it's a 1C. Let's carry on. So which note is sung in unison by 2 of the voices? Now if it was a shorter value note which requires a stem, when when two voice parts are in unison, they would share the note and just have their own stems pointing in the appropriate direction for the voice part. However, when it's a semi-breve or a whole note, there's no stem, and so we have to give them a separate note head each, and so that is sung by both the soprano and the alto, which is why there have to be two notes. One is for the soprano line, one is for the alto line. We don't suddenly just lose a voice part. They need to have their own note allocation, and so we have a note D. That's sung in unison. Now then, we need to name two standard orchestral instruments that could play the bass part of this passage. So we need to find two instruments for the orchestra that would play in this bass register. And the most obvious ones would be perhaps the cello out of the string family, or the bassoon. You could of course choose the double bass as the absolute lowest of the string family, so that would be okay, the double bass. Or you could also choose the trombone out of the brass family. That's just some of the options you've got there. Let's carry on to this last bit. Now this last bit doesn't occur in the newly revised 2018 onwards exam paper. You're not required to write choral parts in open score or closed score. However, it's a nice jolly little piece of homework or revision to do just in terms of general knowledge, so I think I would just do it anyway. It won't take 2 minutes. However, you're quite within your rights to just skip this if you really don't want to. But there's not really a great deal of tough thinking required. So we need to put in the clefs. And so I'm going to be referring to bars 5 and 6 here, and I'm going to be giving them their own stave. The stems will then change appropriate to the position on the stave, and we just need to remember the special consideration for the tenor line. So the soprano is the treble clef, as in the closed score, so is the alto. Now in closed score, the tenor voice part is bass clef. However, when in open score, the form is to pop it into treble clef, but we do a little number 8 to show that although they're singing high and we transpose it up an octave, they're actually singing an octave lower. The bass stays in bass clef at pitch as well. So then we have, and now it's just a case of making sure that we show each bit of the bar and align our voice parts correctly. So we've got an F in the treble, in the soprano, D in the alto. Now this will be the F in the tenor line. Sorry, the A in the tenor line. Let's just look at that again. If you see here, there's the A in the bass clef. We transpose it up an octave into the treble clef, and that's why we have this little number 8. And then the bass part is this low F. They're all minims or half notes, but this one's got a dot. And so moving on to the next beat, we have E, C, just down a step to the G, keeping that octave increased. Now these are all after 2 beats, but the bass part is after beat 3, so we need to position this a beat later, and that will be tied as well, looking at the original. And so now the remaining half a beat after these dotted notes will just come slightly after this to show it's the remaining half a beat of a bar. So just positioning those carefully. And so let's pop some stems in place. And we've just got some semi-brief, some whole notes at the end. So we've got a D, they're in unison. So they've got the same note. So we've got the F and a D in the bass. And I've just realised I need to put in the key signature. Should have done that first. The time signature isn't required there because it's not the first beat of the bar. But of course we need to know the key signature, otherwise that won't make musical sense. Should have done that first really, but there we go, it's in there now. So we've just got a little bit of phrasing to do. That's tied, and there we have it. That's that. I do hope that you found that helpful. I hope that you're enjoying working through this and it's bringing things back into remembrance from previous grades. If you can give me a like, that'd be really great, and please do subscribe to my channel to keep updated, and also please do visit my website. Go to sharonbill.com and have a browse through all the information and resources available to you there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.